Hi, my name is Christiana Lilly, and I'm the president of the Florida chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists. I first heard about the New Voices campaign 3 years ago at one of our national conferences in Orlando. I attended a session from the Student Press Law Center. They were hosting a session to talk about the different struggles that middle school, high school, and college students were having when reporting. And I was really astonished to find out how much of the stories that seemed very mundane or middle of the road, not controversial at all, were being restricted and they weren't allowed to report on it. A New Voices law should be passed in Florida because, frankly, Florida is already very open with journalists. We have a sunshine law, and compared to other states, Florida is very open with public records. So journalists have a lot of access to budgets, emails, and lots of other documents that journalists in other states have a very hard time accessing. So I feel that it would be a very natural progression for us to also allow student journalists and journalists that are in the learning process to have those full First Amendment rights when they're reporting. In the time that we've been attending different student journalist conferences, we've gone to college, middle school, high school, talked to a lot of students, and we've talked to them about the New Voices campaign, and we've talked to them about what the First Amendment means to them as journalists, and we've heard a lot of different stories. So there's a lot of them, but a few that I would like to share. First off is with some 6th graders that we spoke to. So we were really impressed with these 6th graders because they were already wanting to learn how to do radio. So they told us about how they spent time interviewing a couple. They were a lesbian couple who had just adopted a child, and so they were learning about the whole process of how that works, and they were also learning how to use the different equipment, how to interview, how to put together a product. Just days before they were supposed to put this on the radio at their school, the teachers decided it was too controversial, that parents might be upset, and they weren't allowed to air it. Another story that we heard about was from students that felt that there was a disparity with the dress code. They felt that girls were being targeted more with, tank tops, boys were allowed to wear things that girls aren't allowed to wear, and they wanted to write a story about it, and their teachers weren't allowed them to write about it because they said it was too controversial. Another story that was really a positive one that shows students that did have the full support of their teachers was these students felt that a local restaurant that a lot of them would go to after school was discriminating against students of color. And this was a topic that the student body was really talking about, and it was really important to them, so it made sense for them to report on it. The higher-ups didn't want them to report on it. Their journalism teacher allowed them to. And through this process, they learned how to do due diligence in their reporting. They talked to student witnesses, they made attempts to speak to the restaurant manager, and they also reached out to the corporate headquarters of this restaurant, and they were really excited to get a response back, and they were able to show that they did a well-rounded story. So while that teacher got a lot of flack, we were really proud of that teacher for standing up for her students and allowing them to go through the full process of journalism and how to write a well-rounded story. What New Voices does for the state of Florida is not just impacting the student journalists, it's also going to be impacting the constituents and residents of Florida. Because when you have well-rounded students that go into the workplace, you're going to get better news reporting and you're going to get more well-rounded news reporting. It's the same with if you have a doctor. If you have a medical student and they're not allowed to learn about anatomy because it's too controversial or they're not mature enough for it, how do you expect them to be a well-rounded doctor? So by giving these students a well-rounded, excellent education and exposure and experience to the full journalistic process, you're also giving the residents of Florida better news. I'm hoping that everybody that's watched this video is really moved and motivated to help us with this New Voices campaign. If you'd like to get involved, the best place to go to is the Student Press Law Center. That's splc.org. And you can keep up to date with what they're doing in different states as well as in Florida. You can also go to the New Voices campaign. That's newvoicesus.com. And then, of course, you can also follow us SPJ Florida on Facebook, Twitter, and on our website, SPJ Florida, because that's something that we're going to be up to date with and keeping track of. And we're really hoping in this next legislative session that we'll be able to reach out to lawmakers that will be interested in this. And finally, the best thing that you can do is to reach out to your elected officials. Tell them that you voted for them. Tell them that they represent you in Congress, and that this is an important issue to you, that you believe that student journalists should have full First Amendment rights, and you believe in education, and you would hope that they do as well.